As of late, Volkswagen has been a frequent topic of conversation for reasons that are quite self-explanatory. And throughout the course of all this conversation, we've come across a significant number of references to Volkswagen's history, particularly the concept that the business was established by Nazis. To what extent does this statement actually hold true? The Volkswagen Beetle has come to represent things like love, peace, and harmony. Additionally, it was developed in Nazi Germany. The story of how the Volkswagen Beetle went from being Hitler's automobile to being known as the Love Bug involves an army major from the United Kingdom and an unexpected group of advertising executives. There's no way to downplay the significance of the contributions that Nazi Germany and a particular unsuccessful artist with a quirky mustache made to the development of the Volkswagen. The Volkswagen Classics department, which houses the company's legacy collection, doesn't contain any automobiles that were manufactured before the year 1950, and VW employees don't like talking about that time period very much. Therefore, it's possible that VW is trying to conceal this fact. In 1937, when Adolf Hitler was in control of the National Socialist Nazi Party in Germany, the government started a new car company that was owned by the state. It was in the autumn of that year that the company changed its name to Volkswagen, which literally translates to the People's Car Company. Volkswagen's first head office was in Wolfsburg, Germany. At the time, the German Labor Front, a Nazi group, was in charge of the company. Hitler's other preferred project was building and mass-producing a cheap but fast car that could be decided to sell for less than 1,000 Reichsmarks, which was about $140 at the time. He called this car the fast car. The role that the Volkswagen Beetle played in Nazi Germany's economic success. To what end, then, did the Nazis employ this seemingly innocuous and cheery-appearing small car? Despite repeated attempts, the promised car was never delivered to any German civilian. They put the money and the earnings from it into something else totally, which was the war, rather than using it to help the German people break out of the poverty they had caused for themselves. Even a relatively inexpensive automobile, such as the KDF wagon, was out of reach financially for the typical German worker. They would need to put down money for a significant amount of time before they could purchase the 990 Reichsmark automobile. On the other hand, Hitler couldn't afford for the economy to remain stagnant for such a long time. He required those who could funnel money into the state. In addition, the leaders of the DAF didn't have adequate initial funding to establish a car manufacturing that was large enough to fulfill the anticipated amount of orders, let alone pay for the upcoming war. Instead, in order to stimulate the required level of growth in the company, Hitler and the Nazis made the automobile available to the populace through a savings plan known as the KDF Wagen Sparkarte or Savings Booklet. The Sparkarte consisted of 4 different cards, each of which could hold a total of 50 stamps. The purchase of 1 stamp was equivalent to the deposit of 5 Reichsmarks into the savings program. Citizens were strongly encouraged to contribute the sum each week, while they were free to deposit additional money if they were in a financial position to do so. Because the cost of the automobile was 990 Reichsmarks, a person needed 198 stamps in order to be qualified for the automobile. This would have taken around 3 years and 9 months to complete at a rate of 5 Reichsmarks each week. During its first month of operation in August 1938, this program attracted the participation of tens of hundreds of thousands of people. By the time the war ended in 1945, a great number of people had paid off their cars in full, which provided indirect funding to Nazi Germany's war machine. Volkswagen admitted in 2015 that it had put devices in its cars that lied about how much pollution they were making. This caused the company to pay over $33 billion on fixing the cars and paying fines, most of which came from the United States. Since then, Volkswagen has confirmed that the software affects more than 11 million cars in more than 100 countries. This problem is often called the Dieselgate crisis. In September of 2015, the United States Environmental Protection Agency, or EPA, learned that Volkswagen had installed defeat devices in the form of computer design tools on more than 590,000 diesel engines in violation of the Environmental Quality Act. The violation occurred when Volkswagen attempted to trick emissions tests. These defeat devices were made to trick federal emissions tests, and Volkswagen put them in the cars. A device that circumvents or disables the functioning of an emission control system on a vehicle is known as a defeat device. Essentially, the purpose of software of this kind is to identify when the vehicle is about to be subjected to an emissions test and to activate all of the car's emissions controls while the vehicle is being tested. The effectiveness of such devices is diminished as the driver goes about their typical driving routine. Following severe damage caused by the Allied bombing of a Volkswagen plant in Germany, the British government extended an invitation to Ford to take over operations at the facility. On the other hand, Henry Ford was unwilling to approve the request for the historic site after receiving an unsatisfactory report from the Ford chairman. Volkswagen is known for continuously strategizing employee-friendly initiatives. It restricted the company's capacity to send and receive emails outside of certain predetermined hours with the goal of reducing employee stress beyond regular business hours. The initial responsibility for the development of the Volkswagen project was given to Ferdinand Porsche by Hitler. The Porsche designer was also an original member of the company's team. In subsequent years, Porsche and Volkswagen collaborated closely on a variety of initiatives. In addition, Volkswagen acquired full ownership of Porsche in the year 2012. Due to the fact that Volkswagen's factory was intended for the production of civilian automobiles, the war presented the company with a significant challenge. Since the company's founding, it's never had a sufficient amount of available workers. The enormous complex at Valdres-les-Bains started using forced labor almost immediately after it started looking for people to work there. In point of fact, Volkswagen was one of the very first businesses in the world to take advantage of the forced labor of Soviet prisoners of war. Germans and migrants worked in the factory, but it also hired prisoners of war, Holocaust survivors, including Jews, and an increasing number of Ostarbeiter or Eastern workers from the Soviet Union and Poland. In April of 1942, the manufacturing property was utilized for the construction of the Arbeitsdorf concentration camp, the first of its kind at the site. In the end, nearly 60% of the workforce of the city of the KDF car was composed of people who were forced to work there. The corporation made a concerted effort to acquire forced labor from the network of concentration camps. In 1944, one engineer from a Volkswagen plant traveled to Auschwitz and chose 300 competent metal workers from the vast transports of Hungarian Jews that were sent there. In addition, 650 Jewish women were forced to work in factories producing armaments for the military. When the Volkswagen complex in Valdres-les-Bains was formally designated as a subcamp of the Neuengamme concentration camp, a firm foundation was laid for the official connection between Volkswagen and the Nazi concentration camps. In total, the Volkswagen plant housed a total of 8 forced labor camps in addition to the 4 concentration camps. Volkswagen? What do you think about the company now? Let us know in the comments section below. And why not connect with us by subscribing to our channel and turning on the notifications. Thanks for watching till the end.